Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunatu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavaditamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So Krishna spoke about the process of meditation, and we are using the Yoga Patanjali Sutra, Ashtanga Yoga, the 8-step proven process to meditation. Today we will reiterate all of the steps we have mentioned and add further clarity as to what is the nature of meditation, what's supposed to happen during meditation, what is meditation not. And we talked about both the process, that is how to, and the culmination, which means what is the benefit of meditation. We need to know what's the benefit, otherwise the mind is not going to meditate. The process, we said, is dhyanam. Dhyana means meditation. And dhyanam is whereby mental thoughts are centered on the topic being Saguna, Brahman, Vishaya, Manasam, Vyaparaha. In other words, the topic being Saguna Brahman, which is what? Ishvara. So the mental activity of meditation is whereby one entertains the thoughts of Ishvara. And the culmination we spoke about is the result of dhyanam. So the culmination, the benefit of dhyanam is samadhi. So this means samadhi is a result of willpower applied during dhyanam. And we asked, what is samadhi? And we said that samadhi is mental absorption in the object of meditation. So what do we say at the start? What is meditation? Saguna Brahman Vishaya Manasam Yaparaha, whereby mental activity is upon Vishaya, the subject matter of Saguna Brahman, which is Ishvara. So the question is, what do you absorb mind in? The topic related or pertaining to thoughts of Ishvara or Atma Svarupam, the nature of Atma. And what is mental absorption? We said it is a flow of similar thoughts, unobstructed by dissimilar thoughts. And we gave it a term, Sajatiya Pratyaya Prawahaha. What does this mean? I just said it. Flow of similar thoughts, unobstructed by dissimilar thoughts. Someone tell me, what kind of thoughts is the flow about? I said it already. Ishvara or Atma Swarupam. It's the same. So it deals with the nature of self. And what does this nature mean? Because I said the word nature. It means that Atma has features. I don't mean features as in features which can be objectified, but thought-wise, Atma can be described, which means there are descriptions of Atma, which means that the features can change from feature to feature, but it cannot go outside the boundaries of Atma. In other words, one may not entertain thoughts of Anatma, not self, family, tomorrow, yesterday, what to do for work, my parents, my children. That is out of bounds. That is called not meditation. So meditation is only bound to the features whereby one entertains them pertaining to Atma Svarupa. The features we already spoke about in multiple chapters, chapter 2 between verses 12 to 25, chapter 4 and chapter 5 that were enumerated, and also in chapter 6 and throughout the entire Gita we will enumerate many more features of Atma. So why am I saying this? So that one knows which feature to meditate on. Remember, meditation is taking one feature and meditating upon it, absorbing oneself in that one feature. So what does this mean? It means that the features have to be first known before one can meditate. So this means a non-Vedantic student is limited to the amount of features one can meditate on, whereas a Vedantic student has multiple options. For example, nityaha. Nityaha means permanent. Asangaha means independent. Ekaha means one. Nirvikaraha means unchanging. Abhokta, non-enjoyer. Akarta, non-doer. So you've heard all these terms. A Vedantic student, having heard these terms, is able to take one of these, either in Sanskrit or English, and absorb oneself in these features of Atma. So this means that all of the features are related to Atma being the truth of who I am, consciousness. Okay. Then we raise the question, what is the process of meditation? And we say that meditation, listen carefully, meditation is not mananam. Because there's 3 stages of Vedanta. Shravanam, that is listening, hearing to the knowledge. Mananam comes after, which is what? Reflecting, self-inquiring in the light of what I've heard in Shravanam. And as a result of the self-inquiry, when there is a remainder of non-completely refined thoughts, I drop those thoughts into what? Meditation. Which means meditation is not for problem solving. Meditation is not for self-inquiry. Meditation is for taking the already self-inquired thoughts done in mananam and dropping those thoughts for what? For further refinement, for further clarity, for further self-conviction, dropping them into nididhyasanam, which is meditation. Otherwise, meditation turns out to be a busy activity, and that is not suitable because it's a rajasic mind, and that is not suitable for contemplation and full conviction of the knowledge having established in both Shravanam and Mananam. It is not for problem solving, just so we're clear with that. So you have to know the difference. Shravanam, Mananam, nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is to be free of problem solving. Nididhyasanam, meditation that is, when I say nididhyasana, I'm saying meditation, is to be what? Absorbing oneself in the thoughts which I have already resolved sufficiently in where? Mananam, exactly. I said sufficiently for a reason, which means not completely. Otherwise, you wouldn't need nididhyasanam. So you could say that mananam is self-inquiry, and nididhyasanam is self-conviction, which means being convinced about the knowledge gained in the previous stages. Okay, we're clear on that? So what we're doing is we're recollecting the knowledge which we gained earlier, and we're dropping them into the process of meditation for further refinement, further clarity. Which means the knowledge that you drop is what? Accumulated and gotten where? Shastra, acharyaha. Now think about what happens if a person goes around the field, the spiritual field, and they get an idea from one, get an idea from another, and they have 50 different ideas. Do you think that kind of mind is going to meditate in peace during meditation? Very hard. Why? Because that kind of mind is busy arguing whether one idea is true and whether the other is false. This is why it's dangerous to go around getting different ideas. You understand? Otherwise, the mind's trying to resolve, but how do I know this is true? Is this really true? What if this is wrong? What if there's a better way? And that is not what meditation is for. So one has to be clear, and from that clarity, one goes into meditation. As opposed to the usual way, which is let me meditate to establish, to get rid of my problems. No, those problems get addressed in Shravanam and Mananam, and one stabilizes their self, their establishment in where? In nididhyasanam, which means that you are recollecting already ascertained thoughts in nididhyasanam, already established thoughts, decently inquired into thoughts. They get dropped into nididhyasanam. For example, to drop a thought, what does one have to first have? clarity about what thought they are bringing into their meditation. It's just like a first kiss. Without a first kiss, no matter how many times the person tries to imagine what a kiss is it going to be like the actuality of the kiss? No way. In other words, the person attempting to bring Atma thoughts without having an ascertained, at least sufficiently, is like what? Trying to bring an experience which I've never had into my mind and then try to figure it out what it's like. In other words, one needs to have some kind of self-inquiry clarity, and that clarity has to come into Nididhyasanam. Otherwise, what happens? Imagination starts to turn all knowledge of Atma Swarupa into its own idea. In other words, the person ends up meditating on what? A partial falsehood and a partial truth. And they get established in falsehood and truth. And that's not what we want. This is why it's utterly important to first ascertain decently the thoughts in Mananam and then bring them into Nididhyasanam. So what does this mean in practice? It means that Vedantic student, again, mentally brings the knowledge gained in class and brings that into meditation. The knowledge gained in class which has, through your efforts, already been sufficiently inquired into. That knowledge gets dropped into meditation. And what do we say meditation is? Sajatiya pratyaya prawahaha. Flow of similar thoughts, unobstructed by dissimilar thoughts. What does this mean? This means that when the thought of Atma Swarupa is dropped, the person, the meditator, meditates, entertains those thoughts. And what happens when an anatma thought comes in, not self? Change focus back to the flow of similar thoughts, unobstructed by dissimilar thoughts. So what is sajatiya pratyaya prawahaha? So we said it's a flow of similar thoughts. What happens when there's a flow of similar thoughts? Little by little. If you sing lyrics and you stop singing lyrics, what happens? Even though you stopped. Autopilot. It plays in the background. Similarly, sajatiya pratyaya prawahaha. What do? I sing the lyrics of Aham Brahman Asmi, Atma Swarupa, the nature, the features of Atma, and I put them into meditation, and just like lyrics, contemplating, repeating, entertaining, reflecting, abiding, what happens? Autopilot slowly in the subconscious starts to take over. And you know how powerful autopilot is, way more powerful than the conscious mind. Okay, and what does this do? It absorbs the meditator into the subject matter, being thoughts related to Atma Swarupa. Okay, so the person gets absorbed. What do I say when this person gets absorbed? The mind intellect gets absorbed. Just think about, for example, car driving. So what happened at the first? We first repeated the process of car driving, and then we made a few mistakes, and then we repeated over and over again. And what happens eventually? The car driver initially who made mistakes and had to consciously think how to drive, eventually by their repetition, sajatiya pratyaya prawahaha, got absorbed in the knowledge of driving the car. We call that samadhi, whereby it is spontaneous and automatic, and it's no longer required to be thinking consciously. Now we just take it for granted. We get in the car and drive. But there was a process to that got us to that stage. Effort. In the same manner, there is effort to drop aham brahmanasmi thought, the nature of the self, into the mind. There is effort, just like driving a car, and by that repetition, it becomes autopilot. Okay, next topic. We spoke about Yoga Shastra having 3 stages. Revision. The first stage was dharana. This is the process of meditation right now. Dharana means I am attempting to focus. Just like I'm attempting to, in the distance, focus the camera lens on my object. I am putting effort to change the camera lens focus, ISO, aperture. There is effort. In the same manner, when a person first sits down for meditation, what's going to happen? There's going to be thoughts of what? Family members, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. So there is that initial effort to focus the mind onto what? Atma Swarupa thoughts. Then we talked about dhyanam. Dhyanam is the process of meditation. So what happened in stage of dharana? Attempting to focus. What happens in dhyanam? Success is coming as a result of my attempting to focus. That's a natural step. As a result of my effort to focus, success is coming. That's called dhyanam. And then samadhi, obviously, is a natural progression after dhyanam. Samadhi, which means fully absorbed in the subject matter of the focus. So if I was focusing on Atman thoughts, now I am fully automatically absorbed, which means what? Autopilot due to the momentum of repeating the same thoughts over and over again. Just like music lyrics. Okay, the music lyrics is a momentum and it causes the person to sing it whether they like the lyrics or not. So why not replace those lyrics with thoughts of who we are? Okay, our truth. And there's two types of samadhi. We said the first one is Savikalpa samadhi, whereby one is absorbed deliberately. Yes, there is still a deliberate attempt on the start, which means willpower is required, effort is required. And the second is Nirvikalpa samadhi, which is as a result of my deliberate absorption, now the full autopilot has taken over, and that's called spontaneous absorption. One does not need to keep or sustain their absorption by saying, I hope I stay in this for a little bit longer. The Nirvikalpa Samadhi is a step not mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutra because steps 1 to 8 are only what? Leading to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So Nirvikalpa Samadhi is Ashtanga Yoga Palam, the fruit of these 8 steps. So the question is, what's the point of meditation? Someone answer. Because the mind is going to now think, why should I? To absorb oneself where? In meditation, and as a result of that absorption, that assimilation, that clarity established in Nididhyasanam, then when the meditation is over, that clarity stays. That's the point. If this was just a one-time process whereby the benefit is in meditation, we wouldn't even speak about it. So meditation has a clarity benefit even when meditation is over. Okay, verse 20. Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati. Krishna is now going to speak about the 7 definitions of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, note this. When we say Nirvikalpa Samadhi, we're not just talking about meditation. We're also talking about attributes of a jnani, of a wise person, of a liberated person, and we're also talking about the attributes of the nature of self. So pay attention, because when I talk about these 7 features, don't just think this is about meditation. This is about the nature of who you are, which is what? The nature of a jnani, the one who knows who I am, without a question of a doubt. So here 2 definitions are given. Chitta uparamanam, total tranquility or relaxation of the mind. This is the nature of a jnani's mind, one who is wise. In other words, abidance in a tranquil mind. That's definition number 1. Tranquility born out of what? Tranquility born out of mental restraint. Because we just talked about the 8 steps. 8 steps are required. Pratyahara, mental restraint. And as a result of those mental restraints, one attains a tranquil mind throughout life. So the direct translation of Chitta Uparamanam is whereby the mind is tranquil, still, quiet, non-spiky, no spikes, non-ripply, like throwing pebbles into a water. So what is a jnani's mind like? What is a wise person's mind like? Like a calm, tranquil lake. And every thought is like what? A pebble thrown into the lake. Now imagine a whole series of thoughts related to anatma nature thrown into the lake of the mind. Can that kind of lake reflect the sun? What's the sun an analogy for?
Brahman.
Huh?
Brahman.
Who you are, Brahman. Yeah. Me, self. So, if self is reflected on a ripply mind, can the self be known accurately? And what is the self nature? Ananda, cheerfulness. So, what does this mean directly? If one stills their mind, then cheerfulness is the natural result. General cheerfulness. I'm not talking about clown cheerfulness with a big smile on the face, completely disconnected from earth. So such a tranquil mind, which we are speaking of, is withdrawn from anatma thoughts. That's why it's tranquil. So this means that when the mind is focused on anatma thoughts, it is not tranquil. When the mind is focused on atma thoughts, it is tranquil. What does atma mean?
Self. Self.
Self, consciousness, awareness, existence, Satchidananda, Brahman, Chitta Nirudham. So this is withdrawn from various anatma roles. So in order to, in meditation, move away from worldly roles, they need to what? They need to roll away. Your roles need to roll away. Both in life and also especially meditation. Especially during dhyanam, because if the roles are there, then what's the point of meditation? I mean, our roles are playing 24/7 in the waking state. Can meditation not be at least one time where the roles are not playing? Yeah, of course. How? Because I said withdraw the mind. How to withdraw the mind? By practice. Yoga sevaya. And by practice means what? 1 to 5 steps, Ashtanga Yoga. First one, Yamaha, Dance, Niyamaha, do's, Asana, strong posture, Prana, Ayama, breath regulation, Pratyahara, withdrawal of the mind from sensory data. As though looking at the tip of your nose, meaning what? Eyes half closed. Not actually. So by practice, how? Steps 1 to 5. And this is what we call both Bahiranga Sadhana, which is general disciplines in life, which is what? Yamaha and Niyamaha. And Antaranga Sadhana, which is what? Stages of Asana, Pratyahara, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, disciplines right before meditation. So, question. What do we do right before meditation? Asana, Prana, Ayama, Pratyahara. And what do we do throughout life? Yamaha, Niyamaha. Definition 2. Atma Darshanam. Knowing self as the self means not silencing the mind, because that is not the Vedantic aim, to silence the mind during meditation and stay in that silence. It is, of course, the purpose of meditation to silence the mind, but not to stay in the silence, because it provides no benefit other than just being relaxed and gives you temporary tranquility. So what's the purpose of Vedantic meditation? In the silent mind, I bring Vedantic thoughts. Atma-related thoughts, which is Sajatiya Pratyaya Prawahaha. Flow of similar Atma-related thoughts unobstructed by dissimilar Anatma thoughts. Atmanam Pashyan, this is where we're answering the question, what do we do in meditation? And the answer is, in meditation we see Atma in the mind in the form of thought features about Atma, about the self, as revealed by Shastra, Acharyaha, and during Shravanam. So those thoughts we bring into meditation.
Is there a checklist of those features?
We take them down. I'm discussing them all the time.
Yep.
I said Nityaha, Ekaha, I said Nirvikaraha. Or you can do it in English. It doesn't really matter if it's in Sanskrit. I am changeless. I am permanent. I am bright. I am shining. I am immortal. I am beautiful. As long as you know what it means, not just say the word beautiful, shining, that's easy. But as long as you know what the word implies, what's the meaning behind the word. Okay, so those kind of thoughts. Okay, so the summary of definition 2 is, with the help of the mind, one should see the self in the mind. What does this mean? With the help of the mind, one should recognize that the mind itself is consciousness. And how does one do this? How does Atman, how does consciousness reside in the mind? How does the truth reside in your mind? That's a question. How does consciousness reside in the mind? How does the supreme truth reside in your mind?
Awareness.
Excellent. I don't know who said it first. As the witness of your thoughts. Every thought is pervaded by the awareness of that thought. A thought does not have an independent existence. If it did, then how could you tell about that thought? So obviously you're the one pervading the thought. The thought cannot be pervading itself. If it was, then you wouldn't know that the thought is taking place. So how does Atma take place in the mind? As the witness of every thought. Even the question that I posed and the thought process that went on in the mind, that was what? Pervaded by what? You. You meaning what? Self, consciousness. Okay, revision about Atma. So Atma, Atman, or the self, when I say Atman, I mean the self. When I say the self, I mean consciousness or awareness. They're all synonymous words. Okay? So there's no confusion about that. Is the one pervading reality of the entire universe. Not two, one. Which means as soon as I said one, a person now cannot say my Atman is different from your Atman. Because it's the one consciousness pervading every single body, every single insect, every single jiva. Someone tell me, why can you not say my Atman is different from your Atman? My consciousness is different from yours.
Because it's just awareness.
Because it's only one.
Okay, this will be in your test after class because it's a question that needs to be analyzed. There's a big answer to it, but I'm not going to answer it now, so I'll leave it to you. So Atman means the universal consciousness, which is what? Brahman. So universal consciousness pervading matter, then Brahman takes on a new name called Atman. So what is Atman? Consciousness, formless, and matter, form. But remember, the matter form is also consciousness. Just consciousness, Brahman. Consciousness and apparent matter, Atman. Okay, that's clear. Now, what is the benefit of Samadhi? So, this is now benefit mode. Write this down. Actually, this is an example, so we don't have to write it down. Think of a clock during the day, and the clock ticks. Tick, 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 tick. Now, the clock ticking is overpowered by the sounds of the world. That's obvious. So it's very hard to hear the ticking. But as the person sits down in meditation and the night falls, the ticking as though becomes louder. Has it actually become louder? No. But as though it became louder. Why? Because the sounds of the world, the thoughts of the world are no longer overpowering the ticking. In the same manner, in Nididhyasanam, when we take the thought of Shravanam, of Vedanta related thought, and we put it into a quiet mind, then that same thought, which didn't have a lot of appeal, a lot of insight, now has so much more insight. Why? Because it is not overpowered by our worldly anatma thoughts. Is that clear? So, what's the benefit of meditation? By taking a thought that doesn't appear that powerful, you put it into a mind which is still, not obstructed by ripples in the pond, and because of its stillness, it takes on a much more greater insight. And therefore that insight now becomes what? Your permanent understanding. Another example, think of the moon. In the evening, the moon is shining, and you have to look for it, correct? Because it's still light. So the moon is shining, and its light is overpowered by what? The evening light. So what happens when the night falls? The same moon as though takes on a brighter expression, a brighter light. Is it actually brighter? Huh? No. So it's the same brightness during the day, during the evening, and it's the same brightness during the night. But now during the night, because it's so bright, I don't have to look for it. It's evident. Whereas during the day, when it was overpowered, I had to look for it carefully. So this means what? When Shravanam, equated to the moon during the evening, is inserted into, Shravana means what? Vedantic thoughts listened in class. When they are inserted into a mind in meditation, equated to what? The moon during the night, then the same knowledge becomes much brighter. The knowledge of who I am becomes much brighter. And joy of self, Ananda, is known much greater intensity. And that joy is then what? Directly understood as I. So what's the benefit of meditation? It is whereby one creates a sustainable environment where the reflection of consciousness is evident so much that one naturally associates with that consciousness as myself. Is that clear? Okay. And what is recognized during Samadhi? Tushyati. Joy. That's the nature of the self. Satchit Ananda, limitless happiness. One feels the joy of Purnatvam. Purna means fullness, of my fullness. Because consciousness is full, existence is full. So in meditation, one knows oneself as full. Why does one know oneself as full in meditation? Because Atma is full. And that fullness is known in the right environment, where the mind is not overpowering the nature of my happiness. Okay, verse 21. Sukham atyantikam yattad buddhi grahyam atindriyam veti yatra nachayvayam stitaschalati tatvatah. So far, I gave you two definitions of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which also includes the definition of who you are and also of a wise person. Here we will give two more definitions. Definition 3, Atyantikam Sukham. This is Limitless Ananda. So what is the nature of who you are? Limitless Ananda. In other words, one owns up to the highest Ananda in existence. And that highest Ananda is who you are. Now, when I say limitless Ananda, we are not talking about sense experienced happiness. Ananda, Satchit Ananda, has nothing, zero to do with sense experiences felt in the body or the mind. Because why? They're all finite in time, in quality, and place. They begin and they end. Even in quality, we say, at that time I had a lot of fun, but today I don't have so much fun. So that means what? The joy which I just remembered was not Ananda. At that time I was so happy. Now I'm not so happy. That means what? The remembrance is not Ananda. It's what? It's a sense-felt pleasure that has nothing to do with you. So anything that begins and ends in time, no matter how joyful it has zero to do with who you are. So this Ananda we're speaking of is not experiential. It cannot be experienced as an object. This is why I avoid the word experience, because instantly the mind flocks onto an object and makes it into something that I can feel with my body mind. So please understand this. It's not experiential, this Ananda.
So this isn't part of the bliss sheath in the Panchakoshas?
No. No, bliss sheath is just matter. We're talking about the nature of who you are, which is consciousness. So the nature of consciousness, awareness, is limitless Ananda. So even if one gains Ananda in Samadhi, is that real? Is that real?
No.
Why?
Temporary.
Bliss sheath.
Huh?
Temporary.
Yeah, it began. It wasn't there a minute ago, and now it is. So even in meditation, those yogis who come out and they say what? I had the greatest bliss. I was one with the whole universe. That was not true a second ago, and now one has attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and basis of that experience, one claims what? I'm enlightened. But in Vedanta we say what? It has nothing to do with who you are. Why? Because you cannot limit Brahman to time and space. Brahman is the substratum upon which every experience of every single individual rests upon and is pervaded by. Okay, then question, what is this Ananda? So now we're going to speak, what is the Ananda of a wise person? When we say wise, often we hear the wise person, the enlightened person, is in bliss. What kind of bliss are we talking about? Because we just negated the bliss of what? Experience. The Ananda we're speaking of is of knowledge, wisdom, of the intellect. I'm not talking about intellect as in I know something. I'm talking about as I am that which I know. Okay, what knowledge? Now you're going to say, I said it's the Ananda of knowledge. Next question, what knowledge? I am full. I am Purnaha. The knowledge that I am full. I am full before meditation. I am full after meditation. I am full even when this body dies, sooner or later. I am full when this body is going under the worst pain imaginable, and I am still full when this body goes through the most unimaginable pleasure. It does not touch my fullness. That knowledge is what gives one Ananda. You understand? It has nothing to do with status or feeling something, but simply the knowledge that I am eternal, full, immortal, unchanging, beautiful, shining, bright, illuminous. All these words, as long as you know what they mean, they can be used. That's what gives the Ananda. That, oh my God, I'm immortal, I'm permanent, unchanging. I am the source wherefrom the entire universe comes from. That kind of knowledge. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is only Ananda born out of knowledge is permanent. Ananda born out of relationships and food, that's all temporary. Why is it born out of knowledge? Because knowledge cannot be displaced by time nor worldly experience. For example, take that down please, I'll give you an example. 2 plus 2 equals what? 4. When the person's feeling extremely miserable, does the answer 4 change? When the person's feeling extremely happy, does the number 4 change? So when I'm feeling happy, 2 plus 2 equals 4. When I'm feeling joyful, 2 plus 2 equals 4. When I feel ignorant about who I am, 2 plus 2 equals 4. When I'm fully abiding in who I am, 2 plus 2 still equals 4. Similarly, no worldly experience can displace knowledge of my fullness. That's the kind of Ananda we're talking about. So, summary. If the Ananda comes from wisdom, knowledge, then it is permanent. Ascertained knowledge, not intellectual knowledge, how I am full and holding that as an object, but understood knowledge, assimilated knowledge. And how do we assimilate knowledge? Nididhyasanam, dhyanam. So you see the connection now. So the sense of fulfillment is born of wisdom, atyantikam sukham. It's born of, so this limitless Ananda is born of knowledge, which is of the intellect, buddhihi, and it is beyond sense pleasures. So we're now clear, what does it mean to say Ananda? My nature is Ananda. Okay, and finally the word veti. Krishna uses the word veti very wisely. Notice he did not use the word experience. He says veti, which is what? The one who knows one's Ananda knows, not experiences. So what's the difference between, see what the implication is? If I know my nature, it means what? It was there all along. And now I just got to know it. Why? Because I removed the ripples from the disturbed mind. So that which was there all along, unchanged, permanent, as a result of clearing the mind, false notions, which were what? Saying otherwise, as a result of removal of those notions, I get to what? Know who I am. Know my already permanent, unchanging Ananda. Not experience, because if it said experience, what would that mean? Besides mithya, it would also mean that what? It wasn't there before and now it is there. And I did something I did some action to produce it. So you can see how wise the words are. So I get to know what is already the case and what can never not be the case because it is the truth of the entire existence. For example, just like the sun is always shining and the intensity of the cloud seemingly dims the light, but actually doesn't dim the light of the sun. So the removal of the clouds, what happens then? I get to know the full brightness of my nature, just like the sun. If I clear the mind, I get to know the full, total, limitless nature of self, of who I am. Okay, definition 4. Tattva nishtha. Tattva, you know, reality. We discussed tattva bodha. Tattva nishtha means firmly established in reality. It's not on the board. Tattva nishtha. Firmly, okay, tattva relates to what? I said reality. What am I talking about when I say reality? Well, there's only one reality. Atma. So reality is what? You, consciousness. So tattva nishtha means firmly established in tattva, in reality, which I am. The only reality, existence, Satchidananda. So what Krishna is saying is, I am not deviating from my nature. because I'm so firmly established in tattva, in reality of the whole universe. And he says it in, he also says, I remain in this. What does this mean? I remain in this. You see how it's present tense? Not I remain in that. I remain in this as what? As the nature of who I am, which is Atma. So I remain in this, my nature, because there's nothing more beautiful than one's nature. Thus, why would one want to deviate elsewhere? For example, a bicycle rider starts to what? Learn how to ride in a safe place. Not in a high, busy street, obviously. So, just like a Vedantic student learns the nature of self and non-self, where? In a proper environment called pramana, with a proper means of knowledge. Pramana is means of knowledge. Then what happens? The bicycle rider falls. And when they fall, they get up. Similarly, a Vedantic student inquires. Sometimes the doubts come. It's okay. I feel like I'm not getting it. I get up and I keep moving. So I keep falling and I keep moving on. And then, as a result of falling many times, making some mistakes, understandable, what happens then? The bicycle rider is naturally established, nishta, established in the knowledge of riding the bicycle. So what does this mean? The non-distractible bicycle riding knowledge, non-distracting bicycle riding knowledge is called nishta, bicycle riding knowledge. Firmly established in bicycle riding knowledge. The non-distracting self-knowledge is called tattva nishta. Just like the bicycle rider can now what? Ride in the most busy streets and multitask on the phone. Don't even have to think about it. Don't have to go consciously, I am Brahman, I am the truth, I am the truth. Nobody does that. It's just automatic, autopilot. In the same way, because of one's practice, one's naturally established in their true nature without having to make a big deal out of it. This is why jnanis never goes around going how, they know something that other people don't. It's just, you don't go around saying, I know how to drive a car. It's just, there's no sense. So the conclusion is, one who practices Atma Dhyanam, the meditation that we're discussing, never forgets one's nature in any kind of crisis, never loses one's center of gravity, never deviates from one's true nature. And this non-deviation from one's true nature, whereby one's established, is called Sahaja Samadhi. What is Sahaja Samadhi? Just like the bicycle rider is naturally established in bicycle riding knowledge, we call that Sahaja Samadhi. One who knows their nature without having to think about it or attend classes or any kind of reminders once in a while, that's called Sahaja Samadhi. It's just normal. It's not a big deal. It's not even mentioned. You don't even speak about it. Okay, verse 22. Yam ladhva cha pramlabham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin stito na dukkena gurunapi vichalyate. So that was verse 22. So verse 22 now gives us two more definitions of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Definition 5, Atyantika Labhaha. Atyantika Labhaha is highest gain in front of which no other gain can compare. Highest gain in front of which all other gains are insignificant. That's the definition of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is also a definition of the self. So when a person owns up to one's purnatvam, to one's fullness, that means I'm full, my nature is the total, I'm whole, nothing is missing in one's nature, is definition 5. So for such a person, the world is a luxury. What does a luxury mean? It means that when worthy of enjoyment are available, I appreciate them and I use them as much as they need to be used, for as long as they need to be used. But when they're not available, I don't miss them. Why not? Because one's nature is what? Purnatvam, full. What's there to be missing? If one's nature pervades the whole entire existence, what is there to miss? But what's the usual worldly way? How we go about? When things are around, we don't recognize them. We don't know it's there. But when they're not there, we miss them. For example, suppose you are walking and you need to catch transport and your friend sees you and gives you a lift. What happens then? You're super happy, right? Like, wow, you got a good car, I love your car, and you start speaking about their house, everything, you have a good time. But suppose they start giving you a lift every single day. What happens then? We start complaining about their driving. In other words, those things which are around us, the natural tendency, I'm not saying it's all for everyone like that, is to take things for granted. And then when it's not around it, or we're not around it, then we miss it. But a jnani appreciates while it's there. When it's not there, I understand it to be just anatma, the world. Thus does not miss it. I'm not saying now apathy or cold, as in I don't miss you. You can still say to your partner, I miss you, as long as you know what it means. Well, we can still play roles of the world. We're not saying now be cold and be totally neutral and start speaking as though you don't care. That's totally not what I'm saying. Just understand that because one's nature is full, where is there a chance to be empty? So for a jnani, the world is a luxury. If things are around, then I appreciate them being around. I thank them. If they're not around, then I don't even think about it. Why not? Because one is full. One is happy with themselves. So, summary. Having owned up one's fullness, having accepted one's fullness, anything in life becomes neither a gain nor a loss. It just becomes as it is, without any personal subjective opinions being superimposed upon it. It's like, fine, I understand it. It's there. It's neither a gain nor a loss. Win $1 million, it's not a big deal. It doesn't actually touch me. Lose $1 million, it's kind of painful, but ultimately, it's not gonna damage you in any way if you think about it. If you analyze your feelings, it's like, yeah, okay, the body's going through some pain. It took a lot of time, but just recognize, okay, but it doesn't touch me as awareness of this painful thoughts. Okay, definition number 6. Atyantika dukkha nivrti. Atyantika dukkha nivrti, yasmin stitaha, is total freedom from sorrow. That's definition number 6. Total freedom from sorrow. So this means remaining in this atma nishta, abidance. Because one remains in atma nishta, as I said in definition 5, one does not miss. So what is there to feel sorrowful about? Because if I'm full, then how can I feel sorrowful? In other words, not shaken by worldly ups and downs. Okay. Still, by the way, disclaimer, it's still experienced. A jnani still experiences these things. We're not saying they're cold to situations, but it is known to be what? Belonging to what? The body, mind, intellect. Because of that knowledge, it's not a big deal. So it becomes from what? What to so what? Remember that? What? 1 minute later, or maybe a few seconds later, so what? It's not a big deal. Whereas for a worldly person, it's like what? What? And then it stays at that. And then make a big deal out of it. And then self-identified. Jnani, what? Take a moment. It's not a big deal. It doesn't touch me. So what? And also because the jnani knows that everything is subject to arrival and departure. Tell me one experience that is still present here today from some time ago. Can't think of a single one. Everything comes and goes.
Awareness.
Huh?
Awareness.
Well, it's not a thing. Because of awareness, he said that, you know. Okay, revision. So, you can put a new subheadline for memory purposes. Revision. So, Krishna says that meditation is means to assimilate self-knowledge, which has already been understood sufficiently in Shravanam and Mananam. And it's not prescribed for gaining new knowledge, it is prescribed for ascertaining existing knowledge. Internalizing, assimilating the already gained knowledge. Which means the epiphanies or the insights that come have to first come from what? An educated source. Otherwise, if an ignorant mind goes into meditation and goes, I have an epiphany or an insight, it's based on what? Ignorance. So it's still not it. That's why Shravanam and Mananam have to come first before Nididhyasanam. Okay, so what does this mean? Assimilated knowledge nourishes. That's what nourishes the person. That's what floods the person. That's what actualizes this as a living reality. For example, tell me, when you digest food, when you swallow food, is that what nourishes the body? Or the digested food nourishes the body?
Digested.
So this means what? I can swallow all the Vedantic knowledge in the world, but it's only when it's what? Digested, only then it nourishes the body. In the same manner, only when the knowledge of Vedantic thoughts is assimilated in Nididhyasanam, what? Assimilates that knowledge in the subconscious. It makes it real. It ingrains it. It becomes a living reality. So it's the assimilation that blesses moksha, not just listening and self-inquiring, but all of them. Yes, I understand self-inquiry alone can also work, depends on the qualification of the person, but I'm just saying as a complete whole. But it's mainly assimilation, because assimilation also means self-inquiry, by the way. Okay? What does assimilation mean? Putting effort into what I've heard, inquiring in the light of what I've heard, thinking about what I've heard, seeing how it's true according to my own living, actual experience in life. Otherwise, it's sort of out there. So we have to bring it and make it personal. Chinmaya used to say that you can read 10 Upanishads, right? You can go through 10 Upanishads. But then he asks the questions, how many Upanishads have gone through you? Right? So this means one can rather or should rather have one Upanishad go through them than they go through 10 Upanishads. So it's all about assimilating. And that takes time. So there's no speeding or accelerating the process here. Try to speed up the seasons, the 4 seasons of nature. Everything falls apart. It has its natural course. Okay, so assimilation is the key. It means dwelling upon the received teachings, which means that Shravanam replayed mentally equals what? Nididhyasanam. So what do you do in Nididhyasanam? Replaying mentally what we have heard. Okay, revision of Nididhyasanam, which is meditation. Step 1, dharana, which means withdrawing the mind from worldly personality and bringing the mind to the Vedantic teachings. That's dharana. Step 1, withdraw the mind from worldly roles. I am mom, I am dad, I am son, I am brother, I am employee, I am friend. Withdraw from that. How? Saying so. At least for the next 20 minutes, I wish to put this aside. And then what? Popping in the Vedantic teachings. So you're going back to the class or the Shastra. The next stage, dhyanam, trying to dwell upon this teaching continuously. The word trying is used intentionally because it's still going to seem like a, what, 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in meditation. So it's going to feel like trying because the person's still going in and out. And Samadhi is absorption in the teaching about one's higher nature, which was started in Dharana and sustained in Dhyanam. And then in Samadhi, what happens? One is flooded by thoughts of Aham Brahman Asmi, the features of Atma. Next point, we said, what is the purpose of meditation? Next topic. The purpose of meditation is to make thoughts of Aham Brahmanasmi, the reality, a normal, living, assimilated, actual experience. To make it normal, no big deal. Now I raise the word experience because that's going to be a tricky one. Okay, it is so. Someone said that a human being is having a spiritual experience, but it's actually the other way around. We're spiritual beings having human experiences. So what does this mean? If I end up chasing experiences, spiritual experiences, what does that entail? What's the silent implication? I am a human being. But in reality, I'm what? A spiritual being having an incidental human experience. Why? To assimilate the nature of I. That's the only reason. Shankara also used to say that, very nice formula, he said that Mananam is 100 times more powerful. What is Mananam? Self-inquiry, reflection. Is 100 times more powerful than what? Shravanam, listening. Self-inquiry is 100 times more powerful than listening. Nididhyasanam, which is meditation, is 100 times more powerful than what? Mananam. Why? I told you the examples. Clock, moon, remember those examples? Silent, no obstructions. So all of this knowledge becomes 100 times more powerful now because it's clear. And Nirvikalpa Samadhi is, says Shankara, infinitely more superior. Now he used the word infinitely. That's giving it away. You can't be talking about meditation. He's talking about what? The nature of the self. Because nature of the self is limitless. Okay, revision. Again, for memory purposes. Revision of the 6 definitions that we have gone through so far before going on to the 7th one. So start taking a new headline just to make sure that we know. Number 1, quiet mind. Chitta uparamanam. A tranquil, relaxed, calm mind. Not a thoughtless state, but a mind without disturbing thoughts, in which one can place thoughts of self-knowledge. Thoughts are not disturbing, by the way, because if they were, then you would say for the 1.5 hours that I'm talking, you're disturbed. So, thoughts related to self-knowledge are then put in this quiet mind for further assimilation and contemplation. So that means what? A quiet mind with Vedantic thoughts is number 1. The second definition, taking a stand in awareness, Atma Darshanam. This means invoking in the mind the knowledge received in class. I am not this body, mind, intellect. I am a conscious principle pervading, illumining the body. In other words, the summary is owning up to one's nature. Definition number 3, fulfillment or Ananda born of knowledge. Atyantikam Sukham, this was in verse 21, which said that Nirvikalpa, or the self, is the highest happiness, and one owns up to that fact. Owns up to this highest happiness. Why does one own up? Because that's one's nature. And we also said it is not experiential. It is not felt, nor is it time-bound. This also means that one understands that I am full, I have no imperfections, and because of this fullness, I don't miss anything. And because of this knowledge that I don't miss anything, that I'm already whole, full, and complete, out of that knowledge, what happens? Ananda is known. And that knowledge cannot be displaced by worldly experience, nor time. Definition 4, abiding permanently in true nature. This was tattva nishtha. This means one does not slip out of one's swarupam, atma swarupam. A tragedy happens, one does not come out of it during the tragedy of life, or not losing one's center of gravity, just like the cyclist does not lose their center of gravity, even if they're in the busiest traffic. So what's the center of gravity for a Vedantin? Atma Satchidananda Swarupa Asmi. My nature is Satchidananda. That's who I am. Existence, which is aware, full, and it is limitless. And we also said this definition is Sahaja Samadhi, permanently established in one's nature. Stage 5 was coming home, Atyantika Laphaha, which means the greatest accomplishment in life has been, quote, attained, which is what? Coming back to myself. Only the self is limitless. Everything else is limited. No matter what pleasure in the world we're speaking of, it's limited. And one has come back to themselves, thus there is no greater achievement than this alone. Which is what? Discovering self as happiness and peace, eternal happiness and peace, unchanging happiness and peace. And number 6 was total freedom from suffering. Atyantika dukkha nivrti. In other words, that gaining which one does not know how to grieve anymore. Which means what? That gaining after which one no longer knows how to grieve. What kind of gaining is this? The understanding of one's fullness. Which makes it what? I do not know how to grieve, because what is grieving? I miss something. I'm not talking about one's not allowed to grieve, by the way. That's still possible, because there's still a body-mind operating, but one's not identified with the grieving. So this means that the formula is what to so what. That's the attitude of a jnani. Okay, verse 23. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samjnitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinachetasa. Okay, definition 7. This is the final definition. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. Dukkha samyoga viyogam, it's on there. Disassociation from unnatural association with sorrow. So I am disassociating from that which is unnaturally being associated with, which is sorrow. Because your nature is fullness, so to associate with sorrow is unnatural. So I am disassociating from unnatural association with sorrow. Now, Lord Shri Krishna is going to give this. What he's saying here is, the statement is to correct a possible misinterpretation in the third definition, which was Ananda born out of knowledge. So he's going to address this again because it's an important one. That the Ananda does not come out of one's body-mind, but it is born of knowledge. So the mistake that Krishna is going to say is, we often think that self-knowledge and samadhi is going to bring us happiness, the highest happiness. Is that true?
No.
Huh? Why not?
Because happiness has a sign. There's nothing to be glad about. It's
Yeah.
just reality.
So what this means is that even if I gain happiness in Samadhi, as I said before, it started at some point. And whatever starts, instantly, it is what? Not I. Because I was aware of it before not starting, and I'm now aware of it starting. And I'm going to be aware of it while it lasts, and I'm going to be aware of it when it's gone. So even self-knowledge or joy born in meditation is not it. So this means that if one thinks that they're going to get joy, some kind of liberation experience, some kind of transcendental experience in meditation, that is a mistake. So this means whatever joy comes in meditation, instantly you can recognize it as not I. Okay, it's just a symbolic. And it's bound to what? Bound to end when the meditation ends. This is a common experience with meditators. They go into these fantastic experiences and they come out and the world in comparison is dim compared to the brightness established in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then what happens? In Nirvikalpa, I was happy, but now I'm not. So what do we say? What does Vedanta say? Do not chase mystical experiences because they're subject to loss. And they're subject to time and they're subject to quality and quantity. One day there's a huge, massive mystical experience. Next day, not so much. And now what happens? Because I had a much bigger one yesterday, now my whole life becomes about trying to attain the peak of my highest experience. So this means the whole life becomes about chasing mystical experiences. So this is also true in psychedelic journeys, whereby the uneducated comers will go there and they will attain some kind of an experience. And then when they come out of it, then in comparison, the world is like, nothing in compared to the state that was established during the psychedelic. So that also was not the Ananda that we're talking about. So what happens then is the person is going to compare my state now, and I want to now go back to that experience. So what happens? The whole journey becomes about chasing experiences.
But even when you understand that, is it necessarily a bad thing to do it for the hell of it?
I don't say it's good or bad. I'm just giving a pointer not to get caught up in mystical, transcendental,
that's the whole thing.
high experiences.
Renunciation, isn't it? That's the whole.
Yeah, you're renouncing the need to experience, to feel, to validate as worthy of liberation. That's what happens usually. I need to have something to validate myself that I'm indeed worthy of this that I'm seeking. Which means what? I'm putting it at a different place, apart from me. I'm implying it's not who I am already. So what we need to understand is that the Ananda of the self, see, there's no difference when I say Purusha or self, because it's both consciousness, is already here and now. It can't be elsewhere, which means it can't be in meditation. If I look for it somewhere else, it's what? It's a mistake on my part. Because it's what? I'm limiting Ananda to time and place. So this means if I feel motivated to go from here to some kind of a retreat to experience it over there, you see the mistake? Implying what? I don't have it right here, right now. So, trick question. How do you get infinite Ananda?
You can't get it.
Huh?
You can't get it.
More answers?
You are that.
You are it.
More answers? Every answer I heard is right. You can't get Ananda because you are Ananda. I can't get what I already am right now. So if I seek what I already am right now, implies I am not it right now. So this is why I keep saying the word own up to the fact that I'm already limitless Ananda. That's why we keep on chasing experiences, because we fail to own up that every single joy that I ever chase is already who I am right now. And when one owns up time after time that I am this right now, then the limitless joy is known as oneself.
You can seek to remove ignorance. You can seek to remove ignorance.
The seeking of removal of the ignorance is what stills the mind, and the stilling of the mind causes what? The fullness of the reflection of consciousness that I am to reflect on a still mind and be known directly. It's already known, always, but known what? In its full totality. So it really is about stilling the mind. That's why meditation is so important. Okay, so what does this mean? We're removing superimposed sorrow upon our swarupam, upon our nature. That's all we're doing in Vedanta. We're not adding joy, we're removing false notions giving birth to sorrow, which is what? Superimposed over who I am. And because of that superimposition, I do not know who I am in its fullness. I may know I'm consciousness, but it's not, it's dry. So how do we add that sweetness, that fullness, that flavor? By removing the superimposed notions in meditation. For example, a doctor does not give you health. Doctor can't give you health. Why? Because your body's inherent nature is healthy. So what does a doctor do? Removes the obstacles preventing the health of the body. So what the doctor prescribes antibiotics which remove the intruders, the obstacles which prevent the nature of the body from being known in its fullness. Similarly, what does Vedanta do? It prescribes antibiotics for the mind called Atma Jnanam, which is self-knowledge, which is what we're doing here. So what does this mean? I cannot gain what I am. I can only remove false notions preventing me from recognizing what I already am, what I never was not, what I always will be in the past, in the present, and in the future. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. Okay. So this is disassociation from unnatural sorrow. Which means what? Remaining in the natural state. Remaining in who I always am right now. But how? By negating unnatural, false notions, preventing me from knowing myself as full, unchanging, permanent Ananda. So this also means one needs not associate with happiness, only remove or disassociate from sorrow. You see the difference? I do not need to chase happiness, I only need to remove sorrow. What are all the books in the self-help? Some of them. What are they? I've got many books, how to be happy, right? I used to read a lot of them. How do they, tell me the formula, how they go about being happy. Get what you want. Basically, get what you want, right? And here's how to get it. Or here's how to have more joy. But what does Vedanta say? You are joy, infinite joy. Here's how to remove the obstacles preventing that infinite joy. So the order is reversed. Saha nishchayena. Okay, so Krishna here is going to give us some advice. And he's going to say, how do we make this possible? These 7 definitions. By practice. So this is advice from Krishna to all Vedantic students. And what does practice mean? It means one practices the yoga that we're discussing. Ashtanga yoga, the 8 steps, to the best of your ability. Otherwise, it's mere verbal gymnastics. So what Krishna is saying, the whole point of the Gita is a genuine transformation of personality. We're not interested in just listening and intellectualizing ideas and feeling good about it. If there is no genuine personality change in life, with self, with family, with people in the world, then there's no point of Vedanta. We're all wasting our time then. So the practice on your part is what transforms this knowledge into a actual living day-to-day reality for oneself. This is your part. This is your job, to practice consistently, perseveringly. Anirvina chetasa, the last word. So here Krishna says another advice to us by asking the question, how is this to be practiced? Because he just said practice it, and now the question is, how is it to be practiced? And he says, with an optimistic and enthusiastic mind. Never allow oneself to get frustrated, because during this process there will be frustrations, there will be family affairs which require our time. It will be hard for some of us. So Krishna says, hold on. Don't submit to the pessimistic mind. Do not fall for the mind which discourages one from practicing. Be strong in your practice. Persevere and remain knowing of what the benefit here is, which is you. Fullness, richness. So do the practice with an optimistic, enthusiastic mind. Never allow oneself to be frustrated. So it's a realistic statement, because it's really easy to speak this, but in real life, with our family and our job and so on, let's face it, it will get frustrated. So Krishna is saying, do not submit to this mind's tendency to fall for ways which discourage oneself. So be strong, hold on, keep going. Do not let the pessimistic ways win, ever. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all be happy. May all be free from illness. May all behold good things. And may no one suffer. Peace.